lot of the discussions over the summer is going to be about the depth. Obviously, everyone knows the Celtics are going to have to be deeper on that bench, but I think they're going to have to be deeper over the 82 games now to get through them. Yeah. Al being the perfect example of that, is that you're going to need another big who can play big minutes on the nights that Al's going to, take the night off, which you should.
The last thing I did want to hit on, though, and we can do it quickly, but because this is very much an offseason topic, but for years we've heard from ownership, with Grossbeck obviously at the front of the line, when we have a contender, we're going to spend into the tax. We're going to spend, as long as we're right there. Now, I don't expect them to spend like the Warriors, where your tax bill is higher than your actual salary cap, but you now have, I'm looking at it, you got a mid-level exception for $6.5 million, but more notably, you have 4 TPEs, the trade player exceptions, that are all worth in excess of $5 million, one of which goes all the way up to $17 million that you obviously got in the Fournier swap. They are in position to get creative, to spend, to really add to this roster. And we don't have to, as good as this team is, don't get me wrong, we don't have to look at it and just say, run it back with your 8-9. You can't
say that. You can't say just run it back. Look at, everybody wants to talk about the Chris Middleton thing. They're going to get him back. The Bucks are going to be better. So you can't anybody saying just run it back is clueless.
So my question is, do you expect Wick and company to quite literally put their money where their mouth is?
Of course, I absolutely do, except I reject this notion, because people get mad too online. They should be spending it if it makes sense, if it's the right guy. There's this sentiment that they should just spend the money because they have, or spend it for the sake of spending it. Or when they were trying to get below the apron and they were trying to do because it made more sense and it gave more flexibility, people were acting like it was their money, right? It was just spend the money to spend it because that will automatically make us better. It doesn't work that way. But no, I don't think there'll be any, particularly when you get this close. Fans, players, coaches, not the only ones who get frustrated and want that taste again. When you're ownership and you get this close, and Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they watch Steph and Draymond, those guys celebrate ownership. When they see the other ownership celebrate, particularly when one of them used to be one of them, it drives you. I reject the notion that there is 1% of this ownership group that doesn't desperately want to win. Then you don't know these guys. I mean, that is not an issue. Finding the right guys to spend the money on, that's a lot more complicated. But you don't spend it just for the sake of spending it. But I don't see any crazy financial restrictions on the Celtics at this time, which is another reason Celtics and Celtic fans are spoiled, because it isn't that way in a lot of places.
Have any parting thoughts?
Draft David Roddy, please.